The Green Border, original title Zielona Granica, new Polish film from director Agnieszka Holland, is out in theaters. It's a fictionalized and dramatized retelling of events that happened in 2021 on the Polish-Belarusian border, where the Belarusian authorities transported thousands of refugees from various North African countries, of course, to Belarus, with the promise of providing them a route further into the European Union. And the route proved to be just Belarusian border guards illegally shoving those people across the forest borders into Poland. Meanwhile, Poland was trying to defend its borders and would end up not letting these people in, or in some extreme cases even pushing them back to the other side, which led to basically a humanitarian crisis, because many of those people were stranded in a forest in the winter, sometimes with kids, with no food, with no water, no supplies, between two countries where neither wanted to take them in. And the movie tells us about these events through the eyes of several fictional characters. There's a family of Syrian refugees, a woman from Afghanistan, a Polish border guard, and a group of Polish activists trying to help the people stranded on the border. Now, the film opened on the festival circuit to positive response a couple of months back, and then leading up to its Polish premiere, it stirred up a bit of a controversy. The Polish government accused it of being political propaganda, of smearing the government and the border guard, of presenting a false narrative. Even figures like the Polish president publicly denounced the film, and the government actually issued a sort of video disclaimer that was supposed to be played before the film in all of the publicly funded movie theaters in Poland, which I unfortunately didn't get to see. I went to one of the private ones. Now, all this insistence on trying to get people not to see the film worked exactly as you can imagine. A Streisand effect. Many more people actually went to the movie theaters, myself included. Based on just the trailer, I wasn't sold on seeing the film, but you know, when a slightly authoritarian government tells you not to do something, my first reaction is, well, I should probably do it. So I saw it yesterday, which was 3 weeks after the official release date, and to my surprise, the theater was still packed with people. So I guess I'm not really the only one. But the only relevant question to me at the end of the day is the film good? And I'd say it's so-so. On the one hand, it tells its story in a fairly engaging way, and it does attempt to show the complexity of the situation through multiple viewpoints. Although, even for how many characters there are in the film and how long it is, 2.5 hours, I still think it doesn't actually convey all the necessary context. Because while it does, for example, make a point that some border control guys did abuse their power and did horrible things, but it shows that also some of them genuinely seemed like good guys who ended up doing ethically questionable things because that was what they were ordered to do. That was the situation which they had to handle somehow. But even so, even with all this, the movie doesn't even try to really explore the larger scale political point of view of the entire situation. It's only brought up as some characters ranting about hybrid war methods and the refugees being tools of the Belarusian government. But it's kind of done in a dismissive way, I thought. Whereas my view of the situation is that that was actually true. That it was a cynical political move on the side of Belarus. And yes, it also was a humanitarian crisis where many innocent people ended up hurt or even losing their lives. I believe both of these things can be true at the same time. And that's really what made the situation so difficult to handle. And I think the film doesn't manage to quite capture that. I think it's leaning a little bit too far to the left in my opinion. I will also say that I struggle to believe that some of the things pictured here have really happened, or even could have conceivably happened. I think there are some really significant exaggerations for dramatic effect, although admittedly I haven't followed these events very closely. Maybe there were cases like this, maybe it's closer to the truth than I think it is. In any case though, I still think it should probably be treated more as a fiction film rather than a fiction film inspired by reality rather than a straight up, documentary. That's for sure. But politics aside, there's a couple other things I want to mention. It is a well-shot movie. It's made in black and white, and there are some really amazing shots in here and clever uses of camera position, blocking, scene staging to make sure that a lot of the images really stand out, and that the image is also a tool of the storytelling. That sometimes the way the shot is composed is telling a story by itself. You can really see that this film was made by an experienced director. I think that the performances are decent for the most part. All the non-Polish actors were very convincing. I liked Tomasz Włosok as the conflicted border guard. My favorite was Monika Frajczyk as one of the activists. I think she felt the most like a real person and managed to convey a lot of the internal conflict with things like just facial expressions. I wasn't sold on Maja Ostaszewska, who I find grating in general, and even the way her plotline ended up going was sort of the weakest for me. There are scenes and decisions of the character that make no sense at all, and at the end of the day she's made out to be sort of the biggest hero of the film, even though her character effectively manipulates vulnerable people, when you think about it, people around her, to achieve her goals, which I don't know, it shouldn't be okay. I also want to say I'm confused by the epilogue, which shows the beginning of another humanitarian crisis, the war in Ukraine starting in 2022, and the people coming over from through that border to Poland. And honestly, I'm not sure what was the point that the movie was trying to make with this sequence, because was it supposed to show that this is a cycle and it just continues on and it's still shitty, or maybe contrast the way that the refugees were treated in one case or the next? But if it was a contrast, was it meant to be positive, as in look what we've learned, or negative, as in look at the double standard? I mean, honestly, there's like 3 different conflicting messages within the last 5 minutes of the film, I felt like, and I'm not sure what this serves. I would have preferred the movie to either be more straight with what it's trying to tell, trying to say, whatever it is, or to just end 5 minutes earlier on the wrapping scene, because I found that one to be pretty poignant and a good spot to end the movie. All in all, I'd say it's an okay film, well made on a technical level, telling a mostly interesting story. It's very harrowing and draining and depressing, but I never felt like it tries to go for cheap emotional shock effect and you know, just straight up make you cry. It's more of a numbingly sad look at a fucked up situation. I don't agree with all of its politics, and I do think it's flawed in many ways, and I think that the media circus around it blew it out of proportion on both sides, really, because on the one hand I don't think it says anything so outrageous or critical about the government or the border guards that you need to denounce it publicly, and on the other, I don't think it's such a revelation on movie making level that it deserves to be seen by enormous crowds. It's fine, not great, not terrible.